Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu wassalam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Honorable Deputy Governor of Bandar Malaysia, Mr. Adnan Zailani, members of the INSAF University Management, researchers, faculty members, and our dear students and guests, both who are in person here at INSAF University Lounge and those who are joining us online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very warm welcome to you. Welcome to the latest edition of ID at INSAF series, where we talk about pertinent topics revolving around the Islamic finance industry today. My name is Aizuddin, your MC as always, and it is my pleasure to host you once again today. And thank you for joining us in this important and timely conversation. Our session today is entitled AI and the future of business education: adapt wisely or become obsolete. And which is a theme that speaks directly at the crossroads at which education, industry, and technology now stand. With us today, we have all the way from the US, Dr. Amir Rahman, who is the member of the INSAF University Board of Directors, and who is also the chair at Innate Capital Partners of New York. Welcome, Doctor. And of course, all the way from Syria is Dr. Kinan Salim, who is our faculty member at INSAF University. Welcome, but you've been here long enough, so you can speak Bahasa Melayu already, right? Sikit. Okay, can. Right, ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, AI has moved from being a concept of the future to a transformative force of the present. It is reshaping the business education in profound ways. Sorry, I lost my script. There you go. Transformative force in the present. It is reshaping business education in profound ways, redefining how we teach, how students learn, and how institutions prepare graduates for a fast-changing, technology-driven economy. From the pedagogical models and curriculum innovations to reimagining assessment and skills development, AI challenges us not only to keep pace with the change, but also to lead it responsibly. Today, we will explore how educators, institutions, and business leaders can work together to ensure that future leaders are not only equipped with the technical competence to thrive in an AI-powered economy, but also guided by the ethical compass needed to use these tools wisely. Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin this important dialogue because artificial intelligence, AI, is no longer on the horizon, but it is here, disrupting how we live, how we work, and how we learn. To prove that further, I even asked ChatGPT to come up with this intro. So, before I pass the floor on to Dr. Kinan, a little bit of housekeeping for those who are in the hall. Please, we will have a Q&A later. Please do wait for the mic to arrive to you for the benefit of our online viewers so that they can hear your question. And those who are online, please do submit your questions in the Q&A window below, and then we will address them in the Q&A section. We hope we can address all the questions, inshallah, in the time allotted time. So without any further delay, Dr. Kinan and Dr. Amir, over to you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. And thank you very much for being here today. I was thinking how many people will show up for a talk about AI. I mean, why you need to come to a talk about AI? You have AI, I believe. Anybody doesn't use or didn't use AI yet? Please raise your hand. ChatGPT, others, yeah. So you already have AI in your pocket, right? So I was wondering why people may come for a talk about AI. And for this question, I was even in the morning, I was thinking about it while preparing the breakfast with my daughter, Rand. She's going to the university next year. So I was asking her at the morning, Rand, I have this discussion today with Prof. Amir, and then do you think that is it relevant? I mean, AI, university, education in the future? Then she started to explain to me that, yes, I'm already using AI, ChatGPT and others. It explained the concept, make it simple and those kind of things. And then she paused a bit and looked at me and said, are you asking whether lectures are necessary in the future or not? I said, okay, what do you think? I said, yeah, honestly, for medicine, those challenges things, hands-on, yes, lectures are important. For things like business and economy, maybe not. So, so then I think, oh, at least if there's no one come to show up, I need to come and ask Prof. Amir, what are we going to do in the future? At least like maybe we can find another profession or start learning a new thing. So we are very lucky today having Prof. Amir coming from the US. And just a brief about Prof. Amir, 3 things. There are many things to mention, but I want to mention 3 things. He's an associate professor of professional practices and senior fellow at Columbia University, where he mainly teach private equity. So today, hopefully we can see how AI will affect or will impact the teaching of private equity. And Prof. Amir also, Prof. Rahman also, he's a partner at Princeton Stonehouse Capital, a strategic investment office. So when you talk about sharing experience about AI in the future education, it's also about how those who are learning in the future will join the job market. So maybe he can talk from that perspective as well. And most importantly for us, of course, Prof. Amir is our board member. So maybe he will also share with us his vision about how AI can be used in INSIF, inshallah ta'ala. So welcome, Prof. Amir, please, the mic with you.
Thank you so much. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. It's a real joy to be with you, Dr. Kenan, to have this conversation. And today I think it's very obvious, most of us, as when you ask the question, Prof. Kenan, whether people have used AI, everybody has used it, and you see how important and valuable it is. And for us as educators, we really do need to prepare people for a workplace in which AI will be the norm. And so if we were, as business educators, to prepare people with a pedagogy or a philosophy that said you may not use AI and you may not use these tools, then when you went to work and you found all your colleagues using AI, you would find yourself at a disadvantage. So what's very important is for us to embrace it, to recognize its uses, and at the same time to build our pedagogy in a way that helps people learn the ideas, the fundamentals, the principles, so that they know how to use tools later on, because tools always evolve and change. The tools we're using today are different from what we had 10 years ago, and 5 years from now we'll have a different set of tools. However, the principles, the mindset, the approach, critical thinking skills, those are what stay permanent. So that's what we want to really make sure we instill in our education. So I know, Dr. Kenan, today we wanted to talk a bit about how currently myself and others are using AI in their classrooms. And then, as I understand, you want us to then think about the challenges in the future. So I look forward to the conversation.
Okay, so we'll start about the current situation, but what is the current status of AI and the challenge part. I think, and that will be, I'll not say easy, but that will be very straightforward. The difficult part will be at the end when we talk about the future of AI, because we really don't know what may happen next year, what new tools and things will happen. But let's start with the easy part. How we are using AI in Columbia University for education. And if you can present, maybe if you have some tools to show, that would be great.
Yes, and also as I'll share some tools. And I know that just yesterday here at NCF, we had a workshop around how to use AI better in the classroom, what tools are out there. So many of our faculty members who are here today can share a bit as well. I know Prof. Kenan, you were there, so I'd love to hear your thoughts as we get into it. And certainly this session, I'm happy to share my own experience, but I very much want to hear from the students as well as from the faculty in terms of what you see happening in the world. So I'll start with a couple of things from my side. I thought I'll show you two tools that I've been using in my classroom. So the subject that I teach is private equity. And in private equity, one of the key tools that we use or capabilities that is required for doing a private equity acquisition is what's called a leverage buyout model, or an LBO. So much so that we'll have entire weeks of a course focused on LBO modeling. Often it'll take 4 weeks for students to get to the point where they can build a model. And even that, of course, when they're new to it, is a fairly challenging, difficult thing to do. So one thing I wanted to share with you is a tool that I introduced or brought to the classroom this year. And this tool itself, Mosaic, is only about maybe a year and a half old, 2 years old in terms of it being in the marketplace. And we discovered it at a conference. So the students at Columbia Business School organized a conference. They organize a conference every year on private equity, and Mosaic came and presented, and we liked it so much that I brought it to my classroom as an example of some cool use of AI for private equity. So what this does is, so Mosaic is an AI-based tool that allows you to build an LBO model. So this is a leveraged buyout model. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with an LBO model asks you to think about certain assumptions about buying a company. So what price are you going to buy the company? How is that company going to change over time? How much debt will you use? And also, how will you inject more capital into that business? Will you add other acquisitions to it? So there are a lot of different things you can think about in building an LBO model. And then it gives you two main outputs, which are the internal rate of return, or IRR, and the multiple on invested capital, MOIC. And so that's why you see these two things very prominently featured here under the current assumptions. And as I said, when I teach this in class using Microsoft Excel, it takes about 4 weeks to build a detailed model. And using a tool like Mosaic, it takes about 15 minutes. Because what you do here is you start here with the purchase price here. So this is assuming an acquisition of 5.5 billion. And let's say we're able to negotiate the price down to 5 billion there. Then you see what it does to the investment return. It is adjusted that way. If, however, we have to pay a higher price, it'll give us the change in the IRR and the MOIC. And so, so far, it's, you'll say, okay, well, maybe in Excel, I could do similar. I can go into one cell and change it. What's different about this? What's different about this are these various toggles here to think about how you would input your assumptions. So basically, when you build a model in Excel, you have to choose between whether you're building it based on an entry multiple or you're building it based on a certain price that you're investing the company in. And then your model is based off of that. So one is given, the other is calculated. When you do it in a tool like this, you're able to toggle back and forth between using an entry multiple or using a fixed price. That's one way. You could also use this to pull a share price. So imagine you wanted to acquire a company that's publicly listed. What this tool can do is pull the current share price, you apply a premium to that, and it gives you your analysis. Similarly, all these various assumptions about cash to the balance sheet. So this means after you've acquired the company, are you going to put more money into it? And if so, you'll see the impact here. If you take the money out, you see the impact over there. Transaction fees can be, this is a complicated thing. It can either be done as a percentage of the transaction, or it can be done as an absolute amount of dollars. And depending on that, if here you can change this to 80 and you see the different outcomes. So suffice it to say that this kind of analysis, this IRR decomposition, for example, this to do in Excel requires a fair amount of expertise, whereas you can see the tool can spit it out immediately, so on and so forth. And so what this allows students to do is focus their attention, their thinking on how the assumptions that they'll put into their analysis. So it makes them think about what price they can buy a business at, makes them think about the fundamental, the operating model, as we call it. So how will revenue grow over time? How will EBITDA change over time? So on and so forth. So all of these more qualitative, more strategic, higher level questions about the business is where they can focus their time. So this is one example that I'm using in my classroom, by which we are able to take less focus, put less focus on the mechanics and put a lot more focus on the thinking behind private equity investment. So this is one example. The other example I'll share with you very briefly, and I certainly a tool that I'm very excited about, is a tool made by Google called Notebook LM. And the reason why I'm excited about this tool is that it creates a universe, call it a Google in and of itself. It creates a world of information and data that's contained to the sources that you feed it. So to show you how this works, so basically here, as you can see, there are 70 sources in that I've uploaded. And the way I did this, I started the class in May. This is from my summer class that just ended. And every time I teach a class, I'll upload my slides, I'll upload the readings for that week, and then I'll upload some other documents that I think are relevant to the topic we're discussing. And all of them go into this database. And then what you can do here is you can search into this, you can go into the, here. You search on this just like a Google search, except instead of looking at the whole universe of the internet, it only looks at the sources that I've put into this notebook. So for example, if we ask, what did we discuss in session 3? So now it will look specifically at the slides and the content that I posted for that particular session. And so let's see what it tells us. So this session 3 focused on the LBO model. We talked about this, we talked about that. And here, each of these links, if I click on this link, it'll take me to a particular file that was presented that day. And it'll take you to the slide where we spoke about it. So you can see how this is immensely useful for students, because you can create a universe that only has the sources from your class and you can search for it. So for example, so then it asks, what do I need to know for the quiz? So again, that gives you some information on it, how it will be administered, what the content of the quiz will be, how I should prepare for it, so on and so forth. So all of this is pulling from what I've uploaded to it. So, what I think is really useful for a tool like this is that it allows you to, as a student, really focus on the sources that are most relevant to your class. It allows you as an instructor to create an environment where you can draw questions, assignments, exercises that are, again, very much filtered or focused on the content that you've uploaded. And it also allows you then to experiment with introducing new content, new ideas, and see how it fits into the body of curriculum you've already got. So this is a tool I've only started using this summer, but I find it to be very useful. So these are two ways, Professor Kenan, that I would say that I and others are using AI already in the classroom, and we're finding it to be super useful.
There is another tool which is recently, ChatGPT is not a new tool, right? ChatGPT is already old one, but they have a new feature in their new update, which is, they call it the study and learn feature. Now, the good thing with this study and learn, because in this tool, for example, you ask the question, so it gives you the answer. So in study and learn, it will not give you the answer, but it will show you how to go step by step. So the feature of that, because they start to see maybe some of the students, they have some difficulties in a way that, okay, I don't learn I know the answer, but I cannot learn the concept of understanding how this has been solved. So they introduced this new feature about it. Maybe I share a little bit about our workshop yesterday. So some of the tools as well. There are some tools, and that's for educators. There are some tools like for building the lesson plan, for example, some tools for creating the quizzes, for creating the assignment. There are some tools which is quite interesting about the feedback, giving a feedback for students. Now, why in one way it is interesting that whatever I'm solving or whatever I'm preparing, I get a instant feedback of it, which is difficult to get it from the lecturer. You may get a feedback, but not an instant one. But of course, always there is the part where how accurate this feedback, or what is the problem that may happen when we are using this feedback. So that will lead us to the second part, which is the challenges. But before the challenges, when I was preparing for this session, I was thinking, if we do this in the future, the same session, how would you like to be, right? So I was like imagining that this would be something like using ChatGPT, where ChatGPT doesn't talk to you, you ask ChatGPT, and then when ChatGPT gives the answer, then you elaborate with the answers. So I'm not sure if we can run it in this way. So we open the floor for any questions for the online and for face-to-face, and we let the questions lead the discussion. Does it work?
Well, this is very much how, case method teaching, which I know is something we do here at NCF and we plan to do more of. This is exactly how you like it to go, where you would present something and then you hear questions and feedback. So let's do that.
Okay. So we open the floor for the questions. Please, sure.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Question to anybody, to Professor Amin or even Dr. Kinan, who attended Kinan was attending the session yesterday with regard to the use of AI. Now, it's nothing wrong to use the AI because it's a point of reference. It's a quick reference for you to get immediate answers and whatnot. Based on the big data that the AI has with it here in the platform. Now, my question is that then how do we assess the student? If anything that they can just replicate, cut and paste from the AI, so how can we know that it's originally his? Because you can rephrase it and so forth. So what's your recommendation on this in order to assess the student's knowledge and ability going forward?
Okay.
So I think the assessment has to be more holistic than the written document. And so what is changing, and I think, again, for the better, in the sense that it's helping us prepare students more holistically, is that you have a written document that's produced that they can hand in, but then how do they present that to the class? How do they apply that to something new that you put in front of them? And how can they prompt or facilitate a discussion to a group that shows mastery and understanding of that topic? So the way that you would do the assessment of a written project or some slide deck, let's say, that someone has produced, is not only seeing if it's well put together, but then also you ask them questions about it, you have them present it to their classmates, and therefore you can see to what extent they've internalized it and used the tools available to master the topic. That's one. The second is a bit of a paradox around assessment, which is what I've started to previously in previous terms, on my final exam. So there was a project, but then there was a quiz that I would do. There was an open book quiz. And the reason why it was open book was the philosophy was, we'll ask the question and then let the students, use the resources and then be able to answer them. But this year, what I've done is I've switched it. So I've made it now closed book, and using a tool called Proctorio to help ensure that students are not using the internet. And that's to test whether they've internalized the knowledge. So I think those sorts of exams where you're testing conceptual knowledge and understanding principles, absent the production of documents or any outside sources, that's the way we test if they really understood. And what I've seen this year is the dispersion, the range of test scores is much wider. So we still have students getting 100%. But then, I'm seeing students now get 60%, 70% on tests, whereas that was much less common when they were able to open book. And not to say that the closed book test is the only way of measuring, but if you complement that with the project that they do, you get a good sense of whether they're able to both develop a body of work and also understand the underlying principles.
This is interesting perspective. Like in SF, what we do, we try also to figure out how to assess by figuring out what to assess, what we want to assess, right? For example, last time, I want you to write something, and your writing should be fine, your grammar should be fine, right? And there's a mark for this, there's assessment for this. Today, do we need it anymore to assess your grammar? No, because anyway, we will take it to ChatGPT or any program that will correct that part. Okay, so the grammar part, the language part will be correct. It's not just a matter of like whether it's written by the students or it is written with the help of a software. Then if this is the case, what other skills that we are looking to assess with the students, right? For example, if this guy is attending this MBA program or MIP program, and later he'll be working in an Islamic bank, for example, or in a central bank, or in a takaful company. Okay, what should he be able to do there? So I think this is a very great idea that, okay, while writing, you can still maybe use an AI tool to help, but in real cases, you need to present. In the boardroom, you need to present. And when you go to the customer, you need to present. You need to be there. You need that human touch. So maybe this is where skills should be more focused, or assessment, those kind of skills we should look for this. So when it comes to the private equity teaching, how will you look for those skills?
Yeah, so I mean, one example is when you're thinking about valuing a company. So the way we tend to value companies is based on precedent transactions. So you look at other companies that have been bought and sold, and at what valuation multiple were they bought and sold. And so there are two parts of that, and I always tell my students there's a science and there's an art. What's the science? The science part is identifying a list of companies and getting the data. And that part of the exercise, with absent AI would take a lot longer, because you have to go to different sources and you have to find different databases, et cetera, et cetera. And AI has made that very easy. So let's say you're thinking about acquiring a food business and you want it to be based in Malaysia, and you want its revenue to be between 100 million and 500 million ringgit. So you put in the parameters, it'll give you the list of companies. Fine. So that's the science. But now the art, that's where now we have to test and differentiate, is to say, once you have a list of companies, then how do you choose amongst them in terms of what's most comparable, what's most relevant to this particular transaction? In what ways is this transaction that we're contemplating different from the ones that we had comparing it to? So that's where the judgment part really comes in. And from my perspective, allowing or reducing the amount of time that students spend gathering data, so that they can spend more time thinking about those sorts of strategic questions about which data is most useful, which data should be discarded, and which data needs to be investigated further. That, I think, is a good use of time, because very much in practice, that's what you would be asked, right? You would be asked if you're on a deal team and you're putting forward a bid price. The question is, how do we know this is the right price? And not only do you have a lot of data, but were you thoughtful about what data you used?
So if I'm following ChatGPT style, in a nutshell, and so this is the first one. And the second one, do you want us to elaborate more on? Okay, so that's the ChatGPT style. One of the way I like the Mosaic platform that you show. So, and because it's evolving, so maybe what I'm thinking, like if I'm using this Mosaic this semester and I feel, okay, student, they already master these skills, how to use it. But then there are some assumptions, maybe it's not there in the Mosaic. There are some parameters they don't change.
Right.
So, but then I maybe ask them the next semester, okay, now can you create a similar platform, or at least something like copying this platform? And again, using AI. So there are some like AI tools, like Claude AI, for example, where you can build a dashboard, or you can build even like a mobile app or web app. So then the students will start to think, okay, so I have this app. Actually, he can copy the app and can copy the website and give it to the Claude AI. But then he can move one more step. Now, if this parameter, can you add this parameter? Can you change that parameter? Can you link this parameter for a specific website or data provider? For example, BNM website, a lot of statistics they are there, a lot of numbers they are there. So maybe can you link this so it takes the data directly from the BNM website and include it in the model? So those kind of assessment maybe in the future we are looking for, where what is the required skills that when you are in the job place, when you face the real problems, how you are able to modify the things in the help and with the support of the AI. Okay, Dr. Said.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Amir and Dr. Kinan. My question is going to be a bit conservative, because as a scholar, it's going to be a bit conservative, because when we are talking about the use of AI, so the fact that we are university, this is where the student learn, we impart the knowledge and skill. So when we leverage on AI, so the question is, who is going to take the responsibility and also the authenticity of the knowledge that the students are receiving from the university? And at the end of the day, when they graduate, they hold the certificate of INSEF and other university. So how are we going to manage that aspect?
I've been thinking about this almost 1 year. I don't have the answer yet, so I will leave the answer.
Well, well, Dr. Kinan, you did share with me, I think, a very good example earlier today, which I believe addresses this question quite well, if you don't mind sharing that one.
Okay, so you're very right on this. Maybe I share an example where we see some work happening on using AI. So when you're using AI, of course, one of the main problems that we face right now is the hallucination of the AI. Means that the AI may give you wrong information. So this is one problem. Now, the bigger problem is when AI give you that, I would say, feeling that this is a credible information, when they give you the reference for that information, right? I share an example. Recently, I read a paper where there is information and the reference was B&M report 2023. So I was reading that information. I read it, said, no, it's impossible that B&M will say something like this. So I searched for that paper. I didn't find it. I sent to the guy who sent me the paper, can you give me the reference or just the page number that you get? And then he said, oh, sorry, I don't have it. I was in rush. I used AI, something like this. Now, this is one problem. The other problem, which is directed to your question, who is responsible? So the guy thanked me. He said, thank you because you are looking for the details. I told him, sorry, I'm not looking for the details. This is an ethical and responsible issue. You are saying that the central bank saying this, and you're claiming this, and you're publishing a research paper on this. And in the future, people will refer to your paper. They may not refer to that report, but they refer to your paper. So this is where the responsibility is very important. We are responsible of what we are writing. So you cannot say that AI is responsible. You cannot say that ChatGPT or OpenAI is responsible. You are, as a user who produced that report, at the end of the day, you are responsible for that one. That's why I believe some of the tools that we are showing, there will be maybe some kind of for example, when the students use this tool and learn something wrong, then now come back to his question, who is responsible for that part of learning? Is it the university? Is it the company? Or is it the user itself, the student himself? Now he is responsible whether what he is learning is correct or not correct.
Well, I think you see part of the, what we want to teach people is discernment. Right? So discernment and judgment are very important attributes, not only of academia, but of course also of moral development. Right? So the idea of taking responsibility for what you produce. Right? So as a scholar, as a researcher, even pre-AI, if we take that out of the picture, there was a certain responsibility for picking the right sources. So picking reliable sources, knowing that they are credible, and then using them in a responsible way. So similarly with AI, you just extend that further to say, if there's, or the data, the assertions that I'm using that are going to be critical to my conclusion, I have to validate those, and I have to know which ones require more attention, and those are the ones where I have to dig back and get back to the original sources. Whereas things that are more tangential or peripheral, those are less essential to spend as much time on that part of the exercise. So for example, going back to what I just showed you with an LBO model. So there are a couple of metrics that are very, very important. The internal rate of return, the multiple on invested capital, so on and so forth. These are areas where if you get that wrong, the whole deal analysis is incorrect. There are other areas where, there are structural questions about certain aspects of the debt financing, let's say, or certain aspects of the product, of the segmentation of revenue, where you could get that particular line wrong, but if the total is correct, it doesn't change the outcome. So therefore, you want to get both of them right, but if you get the second one incorrect, it doesn't have the same impact on the outcome. So that's an example or an illustration of how you need to know what is more important and what is less important. And then the ones that are most central, you need to make sure that you've done the due diligence to be certain that it's not a hallucination, it's not something that's incorrect, etc. And that's where it comes to the question of your responsibility as a scholar, as someone who's disseminating knowledge, to make sure you do not mislead people with incorrect information.
Okay, the question of the due diligence, I think that's a very practical question, because while you are shortening the time, you become more efficient in doing the things. Maybe now you need to spend more time on the due diligence part.
Exactly.
Okay, that's great. Brother Shakur.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khairan for having the session. I'm a little bit scared asking this question, but I have to ask it. You asked a daughter question about the future of teaching. Can AI be used for teaching religious questions, Islamic questions? And let me rephrase that. Can I ask AI to give me an opinion or do something based on a religious question? Because AI is based on machine learning. It knows whatever you have fed it. Can we teach machines 1,500 years of knowledge and rely on the response you get from the AI? Because idiots like me will go to AI, okay, can you tell me, is this realistically correct? Can I rely on that answer?
So of course you can ask. I mean, this is very obvious. You can ask, and I believe many people, they're already asking. But now the question whether this is the reliable or not, right? We have Sharia scholars to say this, but then if we go back to the same point, who is responsible for the answer? Because normally when you ask Sharia scholar, he is responsible of what he is saying, telling you, right? And there is a book not on this, but there is a book for the Muftis from Ibn al-Qayyim. The title is I'lam al-Muqqi'in an Rabbil Alameen, meaning that it's about those who sign on behalf of the God, on behalf of Allah. So the Mufti is someone who signed, telling you that Allah is telling this to you, right? So now you can't trust the Mufti, the physical Mufti, but can you trust the AI? Can you trust the AI that AI sign on behalf on the God, right? It may sign on behalf of his God, right? But not on behalf of the ultimate God. So this is my opinion for the Sharia kind of questions. But I believe the problem is not, is it reliable or not, but it's more about how many people they are using this. Even if you say it's not reliable, I believe the more that you are involved in the relationship with AI, the more you are trusting the AI of the answers, the more you are not doing the due diligence or checking, then you'll be more comfortable to ask those kind of questions and to get the answer from the AI. What do you think, Prof?
So on questions of religion, this ifta discipline, ifta expertise of giving religious guidance is, one of the things they say about a sign of a good mufti is that they will respond to a question with another question. Right? So someone will say, I did such and such thing. And then, so let me give you an example. Someone will say, I ate an apple. Is that okay? And the question will be, well, is it Ramadan and were you required to fast? Right? Because that would explain it. You could eat the apple and it's actually entirely permissible. However, it could be impermissible for you to eat the apple because you're required to be fasting and you're not observing the fast. Or because you took the apple from your neighbor without her permission, now it's haram for you to eat that apple. Right? So all of those contextual elements that come with giving a fatwa or giving religious guidance, that I think AI is not capable of doing. So you could sit there and say, can I do such and such thing? But if they don't know, it doesn't know the holistic situation that you're in, it doesn't understand your context, and you, of course, may not be telling it everything that it needs to know to guide you in that situation. So I would be very reluctant to rely on AI when it comes to those sorts of matters of either religious practice or personal development, because it doesn't understand so whether it be a question of fiqh or a question of tarbiyah, I would definitely want to be with a murabbi or a faqih who has a more holistic understanding of the human experience.
So thank you so much. I came a bit late, so I missed the first part. So apology if my question sounds repetitive. I'm trying to put these two things together, finance and AI. If you look at finance, it started with rationality. And then over time, finance become more conscious about human behavior and so on. And then people start accepting what we call as predictable irrationality. Right? So I'm not sure, or maybe, or perhaps, it might happen with AI as well. The moment AI start developing conscious. So the question is that, do you think the elements of conscious will come in AI? When he has the ability to understand your emotions, and your cognitive, and the way you think, and the way that you actually ask questions. And my question is that if that happens, so does it answer your questions whether we become obsolete or how we adapt to this consciousness of AI? I mean, in a nutshell, that's the question. Yeah.
So, the consciousness of, I think, let me phrase it a little bit differently. There's the self-awareness of AI and the correcting aspects of it. So what makes AI so interesting and breakthrough is that it's able to learn from its experiences, right? That's what makes it different from a calculator. So a calculator, you can use a calculator once, and then once you've cleared it, it doesn't remember what it did last time. It won't say last time you did this, you forgot to put in a decimal point. But AI can say that. Say, last time you asked me this question, I told you such and such, and then later on we found out something else. So I think that's where there's a learning consciousness, a self-awareness around AI, which can be very helpful. What I would say is that, presumably it would be subject to some of the same biases and skews that its human inputs would be, right? So basically, if you are telling the way, because the way the AI is learning is based on your feedback. So if you ask it a question and then you give the feedback that says, well, this was a poor response, or this does not give me what I need to know, then it's going to learn from that based on your subjective input. So I would say that, it probably will move in the same directions of cognitive biases, the same kind of predictably irrational behavior of the human beings who feed it. And so in that respect, it might become more reflective of human thought than it is today. But it would still have the same imperfections of the humans who design it.
It's a good question about conscience. I'm not sure if we are able to answer it. But AI is depend on the data. At least the current AI that we have, it depends on the data. You feed the data, then it learns from that data, right? An important question is, where is this data coming from? But that's just not just for the AI, but also it go for other things. Like, for example, when it comes to the psychology, a lot of psychology studies have been done on what they call weird people. And weird people, it is for weird, which is Western, educated people, rich people, something like this. And why this is happening? Why this is saying like this? Because most of those studies have happened in the Western countries, and a lot of those empirical studies, surveys that done within the students who are studying psychology, because this is the easiest pool to do those kind of research. So a lot of the body knowledge has been built on that one. Now, AI is taking from that body of knowledge, right? So AI take it that answer, or building it answer from this kind of data. Now bring AI, implement it here or implement it another way. It doesn't help to solve the problem. It may not be helping solving the problem. Why? Because it doesn't have that conscious. Again, it built on the data that had been fed it to the model, right? Now, the problem that we may face in the future, and we may feel that there's a conscious because the more and more AI is sweet, is nice, talking to us, we feel that we are talking to real people. And this is where that feeling of, oh yes, there is a conscious, it understands me. And unfortunately, there are a lot of cases happening right now where like teenagers, they are engaging with the AI in a way, right? So, and this is a bit problematic. But why it's happening? Because the AI is trying, again, based on the data set that they have, try to mimic how human is doing. But again, this is not conscious. It's more of replicating what the human is doing.
Just wondering, can we progress from conscious to conscience? Can AI progress from being conscious to having conscience?
Very philosophical.
I mean, look. I think going to the question before about religious guidance, and would you take religious guidance from an AI tool? So part of why we take religious guidance from scholars, or actually let me expand on this point. One of the important traditions we have in Islamic scholarship and ethical scholarship more broadly is you choose your teachers not only based on their knowledge but based on their character, right? So if somebody has read a lot of books but he or she does not behave in an upright manner, they're not someone that you trust your religion with. You don't ask them for religious guidance, right? So, and we have so many proofs of this, right? So, for example, even witnessing, somebody who's known to have bad character, you don't accept their witnessing, even though they might have seen something that happened. So, similarly, because the machine is a machine, so can it really have? Does it have character? And can its character be deemed to be trustworthy? So, the great thing about having a reliable scholar from whom you learn is that scholar is not concerned primarily with satisfying you as the questioner. Their primary concern is their relationship with God and how they will account for the question that they've been asked, and how will they account to that. And so this just came up, yesterday. Over dinner when we had the dinner last night about the very famous story about Imam Malik rahimahullah, right? When he was asked a series of questions, they say it was 100 questions, and he wrote back his response for 95 of them, said, I do not know, I do not know, I do not know. And then he answered a few of them. And then someone asked him, well, what will the people say that we asked all these questions of Imam Malik and he didn't give us an answer. And he says, well, you can tell them that Imam Malik says he does not know. Because for Imam Malik, he wanted to be, it was more important for him that he would be accountable to God, and therefore he doesn't want to give an answer that's not going to be accurate. Of course, an AI tool does not have that consciousness, right? So that's one of the very important reasons why you would not rely for these very important matters of religious judgment with an AI tool. At least that's what I would say. But some simpler questions like, what's the will it rain, or is it likely to rain tomorrow in Kuala Lumpur, or what time is the next train to Sempang? That I think you can rely on AI.
Now I have one question, Prof. Ken. Okay, so we talk about like how AI itself and it think or it behaves, or how we are going to rely on. But if we go back to our students, right? Students in the business schools. So I think the business schools may have now a challenge. In one way, it needs to fulfill the market needs. So since those students will go to the market, they will use AI anyway. So they just want them to use AI because this is efficient, this is good. It's not necessarily they understand maybe the concept or how it works, but use AI and go forward. But if we think about also like as a nation or as a humanity, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, if most of our graduates or our leaders or whatever, they don't have the concept, they don't master the skill, they are just using AI. I'm not sure like how the future will look like, but do you think that there is also a responsibility for the business school to look at that part, not just what the market need right now, but then how the people professional in finance, for example, will be in 20, 30 years later if they are just using AI, and what kind of skills that they should have because they are human being?
So certainly, when you say they're using AI,
maybe we go back to the example of navigation, right? So when we use navigation,
right. So yes, so the idea of navigation. So we were speaking earlier with how, we used to be much better at being able to drive cars and reach our destination by either reading a map or looking at road signs. And now we seem to have lost the capability to navigate without a GPS. And the question becomes, is that a skill or a capability that is important enough that we should deprive ourselves of GPS and teach everyone to read maps? To some extent, yes. I think it is important. There are certain circumstances where you won't have access to GPS, or the roads might not be programmed in the computer, what have you. So for some reasons, to some extent, we need that. However, I can generally accept the decline in skill when it comes to road navigation. Where we should not accept decline in skill is when it comes to moral judgment, when it comes to prioritization of issues, when it comes to making strategic decisions, when it comes to being able to identify the pros and cons of certain options, when it comes to being able to know what is applicable in this situation and what is not applicable. So I think that's where the mindset of a business education remains very important. And so I think that there are certain constants that we need our business school students to have, and those are the more areas around judgment, around principles, around frameworks, around the ways of looking at problem solving, and then what tools they use to solve the problem. That will continue to evolve. So whether it's the same tools now that there were in the past is less relevant than knowing the frameworks and the guiding principles that will allow you to, or how you will use the tools.
So if we're going this direction, are we still using the same tool or the same methodology that we are using right now? There's currently a discussion about using Bloom taxonomy, right? Where we're starting from the basics, from remember to understand, to evaluate, analyze, evaluate, and then create. This is how we build our curriculum. But now, with the using of AI, whenever you can give the task or the assignment for the students, and they may not like to start with the understanding or memorizing, because it's better to them to start from creating, because they just can go to the AI, ask, okay, I want to write a report on like analyzing those companies, and then that's it. So they're starting from creating. So do you think that this argument about flipping the Bloom taxonomy to be starting from creating and then go back to the understanding part is a valuable one? We try to do it in NSF in a bit. I'm not sure how successful, but do you think that this is something that we're the future of education?
I think it is valuable. So sort of to expand on what you said earlier, this Bloom's taxonomy concept, the idea is that first you teach people a concept, then you make sure they understand it, then you have them apply it, then you have them build something using that concept, and that's how you know that they've mastered it. Because the assumption behind that framework is that it's not possible to create something unless you've understood the underlying concept. That may not hold with AI, right? So therefore, the idea of changing the sequence or making sure that what has been produced is relying on, or not only has a good finished product been made, but also the supporting logic and the assumptions and the frameworks have also been understood. I think there is a place for that. And so the idea of, similar to what I said earlier, where my assessment now is not only the project that they do, but also a quiz of the fundamental concepts, and making sure that they can not only show something that's a final product, but also explain how it's produced, that's a good way of making sure that the concepts have been understood.
Yes, I can see the amount of work educators now they need to do.
That's right.
The amount of work that educators need to do right
Yeah.
now to revamp the way they assess.
That's a big deal.
Okay, great. Do you have any questions from the online?
Dr. Kenan,
How many?
I have a question. Can I ask? I have been waiting for
Please.
perhaps last question from the floor. Thank you so much. Glad to be here, Dr. Amir, Dr. Kenan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My question is actually very, very basic. I think I do understand in terms of what Dr. Amir has explained. In terms of assessing the understanding, but we must also, looking from the academic perspective, we must also evaluate the students' writing.
Of course.
So this is where it is become very challenging. We can actually look at the writing and be very much impressive. Wow, they can write like this. And when it goes to turn it in, it's like 70% AI detected, things like that. So where do we draw the line? And maybe if you can share from your experience on how it is being managed in Columbia Business School in terms of looking at the writing of the student, perhaps in their theses and project papers and things like that.
Yeah, so let me start with what I'm doing currently, and practice may vary from across different faculty members, but we do use Turnitin, the tool. The Turnitin is a tool that checks. It was originally created to check for plagiarism, but it also now has a feature you can check for whether something was AI generated, and if something is AI generated, then it's flagged. And for my assessments, I do penalize, meaning I'll ask a student to do something again if it comes as AI generated, because similar to plagiarism, I share your view that it's important for them to be able to articulate it themselves. It's also quite interesting because the students who are writing from scratch do appreciate that we require everyone to do the same thing. Right? Because if you're from a student perspective, if I'm not using AI and all of my classmates are, then I might feel disadvantaged, etc. So that's at least what I'm doing today, because I do agree that being able to create fresh writing is a very important thing. But will that change? I can't say for sure. And I know, Prof. Kenan, you were talking about how it's not everyone uses that feature or feels that it's necessarily a drawback to the AI generated. So maybe you can share your perspective.
So when it comes to Turnitin or other AI detectors, there is like two problems here. The first one, is it accurate 100%? It is not. It's not accurate. So maybe if you use that tool, you still can use it, but you are penalizing the wrong student. You see, sometimes today I think that you already start to see the people writing on the social media, they are using AI because you can see that those words, for example, they delve in something and they do something like this. But then it's not just using the AI. Actually, the people, their writing style have been changed a little bit because they are using AI too much. So they start to write the same way that AI write as well. So this is a kind of like feedback loop. Then if that guy submits something on the Turnitin may mention that this is AI generated. So this is one thing. The other thing now, again, the question coming back, whether do I want to penalize because they are using AI or because they are using AI wrongly? Like in my case, normally I don't look at the Turnitin percentage. I read the paper and I can see if this AI or not. But it's more important, like, is the ethics is there? Yes, you are using AI, but are you using AI ethically in that process? Right? Is the data is there? Is the source of data is correct? Is the way that you analyze the data is correct? This is, for me, this is the most important part. Now, why I'm saying this, because some students, they are good in analysis, they are not good in writing, so they just put the question in the AI to help them in writing, in paraphrasing. Now, if they do this in the paraphrasing, it goes to Turnitin will say that this is AI generated, right? Now, if I am assessing their communication skills, even in writing, I will take note of this, of course, because I want to see their communication skills in writing. So any use of AI, that will not be allowed. But if I am assessing their ability to analyze, to collect the data, to have the insight, then I might be lenient of if they are using AI or not using AI on the writing part. So again, it goes back to what is the skill that I'm trying to assess in my assessment. Okay.
Right. Cool. Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. We have 4 questions online. There's more, just keep them coming in. Firstly, from Dilshobek, he asks, Assalamu alaikum. What is your opinion on having a dedicated team or person at the university or at a university who would be studying, researching, and trying out both benefits of new AI and the potential that it has and the actual harms of them? For example, on our brains, on our creativity, and so on. And then constantly sharing with the students. Because as almost every month, there are new models of AI and students are not able to catch up with these things, with the updates.
I think there are already some universities, they have what they call the AI lab. And in this AI lab, it depends what are they doing with the AI lab. Some of them, they use this AI lab to produce new research. Some of them, they use AI lab for assessment, for example, or to try to check or assess how AI will be used in teaching, how AI will be used in studying. So there are some kind of universities, they have those specified labs or teams to work on. But on top of that, I believe in every university there is someone, or there is more than someone. There's many people, they are working on the AI. Right? The problem is not just the students. Also, those people who are working with the AI, the educators, also, it's difficult for them to catch up with the new things that happening with the AI. Every day there is a new tool, and then even like once you master the tool, the next day there is another tool for that one. Even having a policy, that's why like having a specific policy for using AI is a bit difficult, because with every tool you have new things to think about. So that's why you see you have more generic policy about this.
I mean, there is value in having some dedicated, I would say, resources thinking about this, but also it's very important to embed and share the responsibility across the entire institution. So for instance, we have at the university level at Columbia, but also at the business school itself, centers for teaching and learning. So we have a center called the Sandberg Center for Teaching Excellence. So it's designed to help professors teach better. So in that, of course, a big part of what they do is how do you use AI better, but also, how do you design a better curriculum? How do you interact with your students, more effectively? How do you manage the classroom environment? So all of that fits in, and AI is part of it. So you want to have some people maybe who are dedicated to it in terms of understanding what's new and coming out, but the application of it really you want to share across the entire faculty, so that you don't have people who are isolated from it and don't have to themselves think about how it applies. So I would want it to be a shared responsibility.
Right. Thank you. Next question is from Nimatullahi. They asked, there's 2 questions actually. In the context of Islamic financial institutions adapting to AI-driven transformation, what specific technical competencies and domain knowledge should be prioritized to effectively upskill human capital and close the AI skill gap? The second question, also, how can Islamic financial institutions design learning pathways that integrate AI competencies with Sharia-compliant financial practices to future-proof their workforce?
Well, let me start with a broad observation, and it really underscores how important NCF is as a university. Because as Dr. Kenan was highlighting, the AI tools only draw on the existing information and data that is out there. So without the data, AI doesn't have any clue, what to do. So basically, for example, if you were to ask an AI tool some question about, is it possible, for a loan to be given without any interest? If it's only looking at conventional sources, it would say, no, it's not possible. There's no such thing as a loan without interest. But of course, we know Qard Hasan is a big, important thing. So because people like in CF University and the scholars we have here are writing things and putting them on the internet, hopefully ChatGPT or Claude or other tools would say, yes, there is such a thing as a loan without interest. But I think that that highlights why it's important for those publications to come out and come into the public domain. So what I would say on for the second question about Islamic financial institutions, segregating, as is the case with generally when it comes to learning and development, certain tools or certain disciplines where the conventional body of knowledge applies perfectly well. That's one area. And then there are other areas where there's a specific Islamic finance technology or mechanism that needs to be learned separately. So then, for example, IFRS, if you want to learn IFRS accounting in general, you can learn that, and it's good to know. But then you need to add to that the module of IFRS accounting for murabaha structures, for mudaraba structures, for istisna, etc. So that's where I think there's, most of the general tools will be entirely applicable, but you need some add-ons and plugins to make them specific for an Islamic financial institution.
Yeah, I think some of the institutions, they already have Islamic banks, for example, they have training for AI and different workshop on how to use AI. But one of the way I see some of the banks, they do it where they have a kind of boot camp for AI, meaning that you bring the staff from a specific department and tell them, okay, this is the AI for half day, for example, and this is how you use it. Now you think about the work process and the workflow that you are working on, and implement or develop how AI will help you in your work or solve your problem. A kind of experimental approach of learning, right? Meaning that, okay, it's not just I'm learning the tool, but I'm learning how this tool is helping me in my like assignment or in my work. I can give an example that we did it last semester, even not in bank, but in INSEF. So for example, you can assign for the students, asking them to build a dashboard for the data, right? And then they will go using Excel or Power BI or whatever tool for that one. Okay, that's nice. But then if you tell the students, okay, now you go use another tool, for example, Claude AI, build that dashboard and build the dashboard that is suitable for you, right? That really go to your needs. The student can do that one, and then he will build something that's specific for him. Now, the same approach that we apply for the students, the IFI can apply it for the staff. Okay, now, in your department, create that solution that helps you. Now, of course, the solution is not 100% ready to be implemented, but it is kind of MVP. It's like 80%, 90% there. It just needs some support from the IT team, and it can be implemented. In this way, what we are creating, we are not just creating a kind of awareness or a kind of knowledge about AI, but a kind of experimental or like hands-on how I learn the AI that helped me to solve the problem that I'm facing. So I believe for education for training in the institution, maybe this is the best way to equip the people with the skills, because this is something they can implement and they can immediately see the results of that one. Even though the results may not be very pleasing. For example, maybe 90% of those implementation or those experiments fail, but still that learning part, that 5 or 10% successful rate will make the difference.
Thank you very much. Last question from our online audience. Can we develop an offline AI model where we can upload all the fatwas and related documents, and then we can easily ask questions to the offline model whereby the model will give answers based on the documents that we upload? I mean, we at INSEF, we have iFikr already, but I'm not sure what the person means by offline AI model. Can we use this methodology to make it more reliable?
Absolutely. So this notebook LM that I showed you is exactly that. So you put in only reliable sources. It will then, give you, it'll only be drawing from those reliable sources. And the chances of it being incorrect are, so the error risk moves from being the quality of information to being the quality of the computing. And the quality of computing is probably more reliable for sure of those two. So I think, yes, it's a wonderful thing. And as a general point, I think that's why, we should be enthusiastic and optimistic about good uses of these tools, because, you are, as you're advancing Islamic finance and thinking about these important questions, you are very blessed. Every generation that comes later is, of course, blessed to have the benefit of the scholarship that preceded it. So each generation can build on what was there before. And now we have the added benefit of having access to so much information and so many tools that can analyze the information, so rapidly and succinctly. So I think this is a great blessing, and it should therefore lead to more robust analysis, clearer thinking, better conclusions, and I think improved understanding. And that's I think the positive side. So definitely, tools that are putting a box around the data, ensuring it's proper data, it's reliable data, and then analyzing it using these modern large language tools is a very good way to go.
Yes, it is possible. I agree totally. The important thing is the due diligence part. When you get the answer, you do the due diligence to ensure that this is the right thing. And then to this question and also to other question, an important thing is, what is the business problem that we are solving? Is there a need for that one? Do we have a shortage of muftis, for example, or of people who understand the Sharia? So we are going to this, or this is just for experiment. Experiment is fine, but then for any AI solution, it's better to be based on a real need in the market. Now for this, we almost come to the end of the session, and I want to read this part. I like it, maybe in the spirit of using AI for business education. So it's about Al-Khwarizmi, and Al-Khwarizmi is the father of AI, 1,200 years back. The algorithm is actually based on his name. So Al-Khwarizmi already applied algorithms, but why he applied the algorithms? He applied to solve first and second degree equations to address real world problems. He described it in his compendium's book on calculation. He said, the goal of this book is to teach what is easiest and most useful in arithmetic, such as people constantly require in cases of inheritance, legacies, partition, lawsuit, and trade, and in all their dealing with one another, or where the measuring of land, the digging of canals, geometrical computations, and other objectives of various sorts and kinds are concerned. So this is the spirit of starting with those algorithms. So may this continuous development in AI be inspired by such rich intellectual heritage and help us to solve more complex problems that we face today. With that, I want to thank you, Prof. Amir, for the time and for your effort. And also I want to thank all the participants today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Thank you very much, Dr. Kinan and Dr. Amir, for the very engaging session. Thank you very much for our audience here in person in INSAF University, as well as those joining us online. Lastly, before we leave, please do share your feedback on our event, on the talk today. And also please take note that we also have another ID series coming on Monday. It will be in Malay. It is about the issue of tuntutan hibah. So more on that info on our social media available. And those who are wondering if this recorded session will be available, yes, it will be available online on our social media after the event, inshallah. So lastly, as always, my name is Aizuddin. You guys have been great. There wouldn't be an event at Malaysia without some makan at the end. So I would like to invite everyone here at INSAF over to our banquet hall for some light refreshments. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.